Community Foundation, sipping less than great percolator coffee and catching up in person. I can make fun of the coffee because I made it. I know it was not so great. So sorry, guys. I am so grateful that we can gather virtually in a format that is safe and comfortable. Today's presentation will be recorded, and we will be sure to share the recording. Today's training, The Must-Know Secrets of Social Media Marketing for Nonprofits for the Giving Season, will be led by subject matter expert and Sarasota native Dana Snyder, and will feature our very own Hunter Carpenter, also a Sarasota native and manager of marketing and communications here at the Community Foundation of Sarasota County. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit more about Dana. She is an entrepreneur, digital strategist, and passionate conscious consumer. She's the founder and CEO of Positive Equation and Herdesk. She founded her first business, Positive Equation, in 2017 with a focus on helping nonprofit marketers cultivate passionate online audiences of donors, partners, and advocates through social media. Dana's second business, Herdesk, is a responsibly made desk designed for and by women. Her desire is to provide women with a functional and beautiful space to work from home. Go check out her website. Currently based in Atlanta, Dana has worked with Dress for Success, USTA, American Idol, the Global Food Banking Network, the Gary Sinise Foundation, #LunchBag, LA84 Foundation, and many more. Dana is a proud member of the Purpose Collaborative, an invitation-only global group of 40-plus boutique firms, consultancies, and subject matter experts, all passionate about social purpose. Dana graduated with a bachelor's degree in advertising and public relations from the University of Central Florida, and we are so excited to have her here today. Go Knights, right, UCF? All right, thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to Dana. So excited.
Awesome, thank you so much for that kind introduction. It is so great to be around hopefully some familiar faces. As she mentioned, I did grow up in Sarasota. My parents still live there. Originally, my maiden name is Bakich. Attended Church of the Palms, went to Bayhaven, Brookside, and Booker High School, and again, went to UCF. And my first job, straight out of college, I worked for Take Stock in Children of Sarasota County, which many of you might be familiar with, Lisa Bechtold, who is an incredible, credible woman and supporter of mine continuing through now. So you might recognize the guys in this photo. I had a brief stint, about 3 years, living in Los Angeles. And during that time, I got to work on American Idol. And this is Luke Bryan and Lionel Richie that I got to work with closely. So some really, really, really cool experiences working in digital. And I am super excited to be here with you guys today. So unfortunately, you didn't catch up.
I'm doing a webinar. I sent you a message.
Make sure to go ahead
You really don't need to do that. I'm doing a webinar from Giving Challenge.
Go ahead and mute yourself in case, I think I can see.
The Giving Challenge. Remember you told me you wanted me to take them.
Mary?
No, that's all right. So she's just doing introductions now, but
there we go. Okay, make sure to have yourself on mute in case any phone calls pop up. And then, as I was just about to say, actually, we don't have the chat today, unfortunately, but what we are going to do is for any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself during that phase, and we'll go ahead and do it like live Q&A style if we were together in person. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, I always ask to clear your space. If you have a ton of browsers that are open, if you have your phone, because I always have a ton of browsers open, clear your space because you registered for this time for you to get something out of it, so to be as present as possible. And then secondly, your mindset. There's been a lot going on in the world, in the United States, I'm sure in your local organization. So today I just want you to bring a mindset of, I got this, I can do this. It doesn't matter the size of my organization, how much budget we have, anything we talk about here today can be executed. So with that said, we are 21 days away from Giving Tuesday officially, and we are 51 days away from December 31st. Is that not bananas? I feel like this year's been a mixture of so slow and then extremely fast now here at the end. So the tactics today that we're going to talk about, This is the 101 lesson today is kind of going to be an overview of a bunch of different things that you can take to your team and dive deeper into to help with your strategies for Giving Tuesday, end of the year, and going into 2021. All right. So one of the questions I normally always get as we dive into this is my audience on social media, right? Does it make sense for me to invest in these tools? And the answer is yes. This data is based on just the United States. And as you can see here, active social media users is the orange circle all the way on the right. 70% of the United States population is on social media. So it is highly likely that your audience can be found there. And then secondly, is it growing? What are the digital growth indicators? Again, all the way on the right-hand side, the orange circle. Over year, there's been 6.9 more million people on actively using social media. And then, which websites are the most popular traffic-wise? Top 3. You've got Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter's in here, Instagram's in here, top visited websites. So again, very relevant. All right, so let's dive into today's discussion. So what are we going to be talking about? Today is the first of a 3-part series. So this one today is focused all about the overview. There's going to be a 201 and a 301 session that you can sign up for in the following weeks, where we dive into social media advertising. So there's more concrete subjects down the line that you can check out. But today is broken up into 3 segments. And the first is all around managing social media. So with a small or large staff, how do you set yourself up for success? So we're going to talk about planning, what tools to use, and how to invest properly in hiring the right staff. In part 2, so after you have your team in place, part 2 of our discussion is going to be around making sure your social media strategy starts off with a solid foundation. So which social platforms should your organization focus on? How to use social media insights? Make sure, we're going to do this together, you're a registered nonprofit on Facebook, and then how to access Google Analytics for your website. We'll dive through. And then lastly, in part 3, we're going to talk about driving engagement. So how do you drive engagement to show that social media makes a difference for your nonprofit? So this is going to be some tips and tricks. We're going to talk about writing engaging copy and show a few examples of that, and then how to find content for any budget. So as you can tell, there is a lot we're going to dive through. I'm going to try and present everything first, and then do little breaks for questions throughout. So make sure you have a pen and paper ready. And we're going to go ahead and dive into the first topic, which is managing social media. So with managing social media, there are a few management tools that I like to bring up. I think when you're trying to figure out what your content strategy should be, it can be a lot of pressure to do it all natively on the channels. That is possible, but it doesn't use the best time in your bandwidth, right? So having a social media management tool where you can plan out an entire calendar, you can schedule all of your content, you can respond to people, having a tool that everything's succinct. If you do have different levels of staff, these platforms allow you to have permissions so that if a junior staff is writing the copy and you want to approve it really quickly, you can set up that configuration. Sprout Social is one of my favorites. All of these tools have nonprofit pricing, but Later and Buffer are free, and they both have outstanding services. So you can check all of them to see and do demos with them. Make sure that each one has different features. I personally think Sprout Social is one of the easiest to use from a user interface perspective. Great permissions, publishing, listening, analytics. It's a full service tool. So I would go ahead and take a screenshot of this or jot a couple of these down to go ahead and do demos on your own. And then one of the most important things is to plan monthly, and on the social channels, realize you do not need to be everywhere. You do not have to use every single social channel because each platform has a specific role. So what you post on Facebook isn't the same for Instagram, isn't the same for Twitter. whenever people often do like a blanketed approach to, I'm going to post the same thing across all the channels, they often don't work great. So one of the examples I like to showcase here is the American Cancer Society. So the American Cancer Society on Instagram, the first graphic on the left, they post stories. It's largely unedited photos of survivors. And that's all they do. They don't do a lot of promotional there. It's a lot, if you go through their Instagram account, it's just photos of people telling their stories, versus this post here on Facebook is much more a call to action about a fact, driving you to their website. There's a very different content appeal for what they're doing on different channels. And that's why different social channels have different features, right? Facebook heavily invests in giving you the tools to fundraise. Facebook is great at driving people to a website. Instagram is very visual. It's emotional. People want to share a story. There's lots of comments, right? So there's different use cases for the platforms. Twitter is very newsworthy focused. So when you're thinking about where does it make sense to spend time based on who your audience is and who you're looking to find? Secondly, in terms of planning monthly, I wanted to outline a few content ideas. So to make it easier to plan your content, ideally, what you can do is have content buckets, right? So whether it's every single week, we're going to have a piece of content that asks a question. We're going to have a piece of content that talks about our mission. We're going to teach something about our organization. We're going to share impact results or a story. And we're going to share behind the scenes of what we're doing with our team. That's 5 posts right there that you can recycle and create new content every single week. And the best thing about that is if you can look a month ahead, spend 2 days creating your content, scheduling it on a platform, and then it's done. And then what you're worried about is having a conversation with people online. So the idea here is to come up with some clever content buckets that make sense for your organization. And these are some thought starters. There's things like Motivation Monday where you can do quotes. But again, and you might have campaigns that are going on, but these kind of consistent 5 or 6 content ideas will keep you going and consistent on your social posts. So then moving into social media staff. So I would love really quick, I'm gonna look through with a show of hands and leave them up for a second. Who has somebody designated to do social media posting in their organization? I'm going through. Okay, I see Amanda, Barry. I'm scrolling through. Oh, I think I saw Jennifer. Okay, great. If you do not, this QR code on the right-hand side, if you put your phone up to the QR code and open up your camera like you're gonna take a picture, this will lead you to a blog post that I wrote with interview questions to hire a social media manager. So there are great tips and suggestions for interview questions to make sure you're making the right selection of a staff member. But it's really important to think about kind of these things. Do they have prior social media experience, right? And that's great if they do, but can they craft content that's relevant to your nonprofit? So to think about that and ask them to draft samples for you, right? To draft a caption, to draft an image, see what they come up with. 2, business and digital goals. I have a slide on this in a second, but this is so crucial. You want to ask them, explain your business goals and ask them how would they create digital strategies to align with those business goals. That's often the disconnect between EDs in organizations, board of directors, and maybe junior level or an intern level staff, is you want to make sure that your business goal at the end of the day, the digital objectives and tactics are driving into that goal to see success. So make sure that they can understand how those align and come up with some ideas. Tools and budget. This is huge. You need to let their staff know that you want them to succeed and that you will help provide them with the necessary tools to be able to do that. So ask them, hey, what do you feel like you would need? See how their brain thinks. What do you think you would need budget-wise, a reasonable budget, to execute what our goal is? And see what, if they say nothing, then you might be like, how would you do that, right? Even something like Sprout Social, asking them to put together an ad budget, right? So it's thinking, see how their brain works and thinking through what tools would they think would be necessary. Fundraising ideas and creativity. So this one's really about how do they think about fundraising digitally for you? Can they come up with some creative ways to raise funds online through the different social platforms? And then driving empathy. So is your potential hire on fire for what you do, right? They have to be excited and willing. A resume is a bunch of different words, right, about social media, but it comes, my first job, I always say this with Lisa at Take Stock. I was fresh out of college. I was 21, but we did a flash mob the first year of me working there. Like I was all up for coming up with creative ideas on how to make sure our nonprofit could be publicized in the news and across the community. So again, that QR code, you can scan it for some interview questions for staff. All right, we're gonna jump into the next section, and this is where to start. So where to start when you're thinking about which channels does my nonprofit actually need to be on and where should I spend the time? So across Facebook and Instagram, here's how the demographics of age and gender relate. So as you can see here, it's actually pretty diverse. This is Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger. So it's not just the older demographic that we all think is on Facebook. It's actually not true. It's growing throughout. So it's important to think about, okay, based on these channels, where should I be spending my time? And then also the most used social media platforms of ages 16 to 64, YouTube is first. Facebook, again, Facebook Messenger, Instagram are your top channels. So when you're thinking about you specifically on where you should be, this is what I'd like you to challenge you to do. If you're not on Google Analytics yet, it's free for your website. This is really important. I'm going to show you, I'm going to actually stop this share and I'm going to switch over to show you what I'm talking about on my back end. Let me see here. So in Google Analytics, thumbs up if everyone can see my screen. Great. So this is Google Analytics for my website. This is totally free to set up. If you go to analytics.google.com, you can set up your website for this, and you can tell where people, how they're getting to your website. This is also a great case where if social media is heavy, it's a great case for supporting with more budget. So on my side, if I go on the left-hand side here, I see acquisition. If I click on overview, it leads me to this screen. So this is from March to November 9th on my website, how people got to my website. So I can click on social. And then I can see here the top channels of how people found me. It was Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn were my top 3. So based on this, I might say, wow, okay, I'm not gonna invest as much time and effort into Instagram, although that's what everybody's saying I should be investing my time in. I'm gonna really go full force on Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. And those are my top 3 platforms. I'm not even gonna spend that much time on Instagram. Or you say, we're looking to change to have a younger demographic. We need to invest more in Instagram so that that becomes a top driver. 2 different frames of thought, but this gives you the statistics you need if you're trying to get online donations to your website to learn about your cause. This gives you some social data to prove that point to your board. I'm going to switch back over. There we go. Okay, thumbs up, seeing the screen again? Okay, great. So after you check your Google Analytics, it's important for you to understand also your audience insights. So with this being said, it's who are you looking to attract? Who are you looking for your donors to be? You might have a certain donor base right now, but you're saying we want to expand that to a new generation, to a new donor base. To do that, I'm going to show you first on Instagram how to find it. So if you have your Instagram account and you're an admin, you'll see this first screen right here. If you're logged in, there's a middle button that says Insights. When you click Insights, it'll lead.
We're seeing your desktop.
Oh, okay. How did that happen? Let me see. This one right here?
It's loading.
Let's see. Hey, let me stop it real quick. Let's do redo. I'm just gonna resync it again.
No worries.
All right, let's try that.
Perfect.
Okay, there we go. Let's bring it back over here. There we go. Okay, all the screens going on. Okay, so now we're with me on the Instagram Insights?
It like did a wonky thing. It's
having a hard time today. There.
Now it should be, is it on now?
Yep.
no,
Okay. Oh, technology. Okay, so here, right here, you see Insights on the first screen. When you click that, it leads you to your insights of the last 7 days. So this is showing you how many people you've reached, your content interactions, and your total followers. Since we're focused on finding our audience, we want to click on total followers, which leads you to the last graphic, which shows you your overall growth. And then it dives into the location of your followers. So mine are heavily Los Angeles, New York, Sarasota, Orlando, Atlanta. And then if you click even further, it dives into your age ranges. So you can see here on Instagram, predominantly I have 25 to 44 as my main audience, women. And then I think this is really important, is anybody planning a virtual event? If anybody's working on a virtual event, this is a great place to go. You can get the same data on Facebook. Great time to see when are people active? When are they online? When are they using their social channels? So at the very bottom, it says most active times. And if you click on any of the graphs, it will literally show you the middle graphic here, which is literally the head count of how many people are on those specific days. And if you click into a day, you can see down to the active time. So this is helpful when you're planning when to schedule your content to make sure people are online. And secondly, this is great for planning a virtual event. Everyone's schedules are so different now because kids might be homeschooling and learning virtually. How people are interacting and engaging online is different. So this is a great place where it's like, we thought about doing a gala at dinner time. Actually, people are on during lunchtime around noon. So maybe we do an event in the afternoon instead of in the evening or in the morning, right? So this gives you some data to back the interactions and engagement of what your audience is already primed to do. Okay, so after you look at your audience insights, this is a screen that I recommend when you're setting yourself up for success on social media. It is so important to set up goals. And I think this is missed a lot in any type of business, not just nonprofits. But make sure whoever is managing your social media has goals set up and that you check in with them bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. I would take a screenshot of this, save it, I print it out, I have it next to me for any type of campaign. Think about this graph on the left-hand side, not as a buyer's journey, but a donor's journey. So using social media, what you want to do is you want to get somebody from the awareness phase all the way down to an advocate, right? And as I was talking about before, when you align your business goals with social media objectives, if you follow me all the way over to where the arrow is pointing down, it says business impact. So these are the terms we often use in leadership, right? We say we want awareness. We want visitors to go to our website. We want to convert people to donations. Awesome. From a social media perspective, one column over where it says social KPIs, key performing indicators, we want to say, okay, we need to focus on these metrics to reach those business goals. So if you print these out, this is huge to be able to help your team to say, great, we need to increase our impressions by X amount so that we get more awareness. We need X amount of link clicks on our content, and that's going to generate conversions for us. So this just helps you put together a plan. Okay, switching gears a little bit, moving into, are you a registered nonprofit on Facebook? This is really, really, really important. A lot of times, even if you've registered on Facebook as a nonprofit, that does not mean that you are a registered nonprofit able to receive donations through the platform so that individuals can create a Facebook fundraiser on your behalf. So I would love for you to, again, take a photo, put this link into your browser, into a separate tab, save it for later to double check that you are registered, because you have to upload certain documents to be registered, and it can take 2 to 3 weeks for that to happen. And you'll get green check marks with your organization if you are. So if none of this sounds familiar, what I'm talking about, uploading documents to Facebook, getting check marks, then you are probably not a registered nonprofit, and this is crucial to do in advance of Giving Tuesday. And we'll come back to this one at the end. I'll try and show you a screenshot of what I mean. All right, we are moving on to driving engagement. So do you remember the movie Social Networks that talks about Facebook really being created with Mark Zuckerberg? So social media was called a social network for a reason, because it's meant for one-to-one interaction. So my question for you is, do you currently engage with your community online? Do you actually have conversations one-on-one with them in direct messages, in the comments? Because if you're not going to see growth. Social media is meant for you to go into Instagram stories, to be having conversations with people, because that makes you top of mind. If you look at your personal Facebook feed or Instagram feed, you will see oftentimes always the people that are popping to the top, or the content you see the most, is because you have previously interacted with that person. It's the same thing for your organization. So you need to go in there, engage with people. That's going to make them come to your profile, and then you're going to show up organically more in their feed. Okay. So what I would challenge you to do, as a key tip, is after you post on any platform, set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes and engage with people on that platform. So you're going to go into whether that's stories and send an emotion, an emoji, or if it's on Facebook, you're going to wait, you're going to send some comments on some other pages, because that's going to tell Facebook or Instagram or Twitter that you are active and you are engaging on their platforms. So further tips and tricks. So you want to make sure, one of the biggest things about social media is that people want to be seen, right? And to do that and to help with that in partnerships is to always tag. And you want, when you get set up in a system like a Sprout Social, if you're publishing, it's so easy to hit like copy and then paste to the next channel. But the tagging works so differently based upon the channel that you're using, because people have different organization names based upon where you're publishing. So always, always, always tag them separately using the @ function, and then wait for the name to pop up, and it'll pop up in blue. Again, I will show you an example of this at the end. All right, hashtags. Hashtags are tricky, but they are what allow you to massively reach a new audience. So some key facts here. This is primarily for Instagram. You don't really see hashtags used as much on Facebook, but you want to use 11 plus hashtags per Instagram post. The max is 30. You can use them in your post and in your comments. You can also use them in stories. That helps you be seen. So for example, during the election, I would post specific hashtags like vote. There was an Instagram vote story going on, and your content can end up in that national story that's going on. So my content that I put vote ended up in that story. So therefore I had massive eyeballs on that one story that somebody could then be driven to my profile. So you can still put hashtags in your stories. And it's a growth tool. So for instance, what I want to show you and break down is this graphic on the left-hand side. When I showed you before, when you click the Insights button on Instagram as an admin, you'll get to post insights. Go down at the bottom where I have this square highlighted, and it says impressions. And it says from my home page, just the profile, it says from hashtags, 125 people found this specific post because of my hashtags. Okay? And when you think about hashtags, you can go broad and you can go really granular. So what I mean by that is you could say hashtag Sarasota, hashtag Sarasota nonprofit. If you happen to be working in homelessness, you can do hashtag homelessness. That's going to generate millions. That's going to be used across the board. But then you can also go really granular to something regional. So you want to play with it and see which ones end up generating success for you, and create. What I do is I use notes on my computer, or you could use Google Docs, and write your 11 to 30 different hashtags and copy and paste. That's it. Copy and paste. Have like 4 different buckets of them. And then that way they're always done, and you just copy and paste them into your post. And that's the best way to think about hashtags. There's also a website of banned hashtags. And what you can do to check these, if you're using a hashtag that's banned, if you use this URL, Instagram will hide your content, and you don't want that to happen. So oftentimes banned hashtags happen when it's been used so broad and it's misused. For example, if I post a picture, I have a candle lit in front of me. If I post a picture of a candle and I do hashtag coffee cup, like that is not connected at all with what my content is. So they flag that. They have AI functionality within Instagram, within Facebook. That's how they're able to tell if your face is in a photo, right? And they suggest that you tag that person. They're looking, they're making sure that you're not being spam or bot-like with your hashtags. So make sure that your hashtags align with what you're visually showcasing in your graphic. Okay, a couple other tips and tricks. On your Facebook page, you have a beautiful banner button that is there. So make sure that you go in and that is actively changed all the time to make sure that you are driving people directly for where you want them to go. Same thing on Instagram. You have an Instagram bio that you want to make sure that you update all the time so that you can have people directly click that link in bio, and there's a call to action easily on both pages. Okay, this is one of my favorite things to talk about because so often our captions are the things that are lacking some excitement, and that's what captures people in content. So if you're scrolling on something, the image or the video might stop you for a second, but it's the caption that keeps people on that content, and that's what the channels want. They want you having time spent on their platforms. So a great caption inspires change, right? It makes you feel something. So they're broken into, a caption consists of a hook, a story, and an action. So I'm going to go give you a few examples from nonprofits I worked with earlier this year. So this first one was Moms of Orange County. So this was about the census. So they had this post that went up March 31st. It says, while you're at home, please take some time to complete your census form online. When you count all the children living at your address, they already lost me, right? If you think about Moms Orange County, this was a nonprofit focused on reaching single parents, single moms. So the left-hand side is content that I created, a caption I created for them. The first sentence, your hook, has Frozen been on repeat today? If that is a mom, you bet she can relate to that, right? She already laughs. Has Frozen? Yes, it has. I'm living in a house with a 2-year-old. Frozen is on repeat all day. Then you move into the story. We feel you. While you're at home, the 2020 census is here, and it has the power to shape the community for our little ones, right? You're driving into the story of somebody can picture what you're talking about. How long will this census take? Play Let It Go about 3 times and you're done, right? You've made it fun. It's something that they can relate to. And then call to action at the end, hit play and start now to do your part, right? So this caption just completely transformed what was said from the previous post. Similarly, with this one, this was from Pretend City. So again, an organization focused on children's cause. Hook, double tap if you're getting a lot of hugs these days with the kiddos at home. Immediately, like, double tap, I got you. And then what's going on? It's the best, right? While you're at home, and this is a similar copy from the last one, the census is 10 questions, takes only 10 minutes to complete. I would guarantee you, and I would like a show of hands, does the content on the left-hand side seem more intriguing? Yes, amazing. So you want to think about, when you're putting your content together, what is that hook? Is it a question? Is it something exciting? Is it something emotional? What's going to make someone want to take an action for your organization on social? And that takes some creativity. Originally they had the census is due today. Okay, that's great. Like, how does that affect my personal life, right? So you want to think about that in terms of putting together some creative content. And remember always, we are 22 times more likely to remember a fact wrapped in a story. If that person can see themselves or relate in some way to what you're talking about, 1,000,000 times that is going to relate and give them a reason to have call to action and to take forward an effort. So I have top 10 fundraising tools for you guys to download. Again, if you put up your phone to the QR code, open the camera, these are 10 tools around video creation. This is around social media content, a bunch of different tools in here that you can download. So if you put your phone up to it with your camera, and I'll put this up again at the end, these are tools that you can easily download and share with your staff. All right, with that, Hunter, I will go ahead and bring you up.
Thank you, Dana. So I see a lot of familiar faces, and you may have forgotten my name in the 30 minutes that have passed, so I'll reintroduce myself. Hi, my name is Hunter Carpenter, and I'm Manager of Communications and Marketing here at the Foundation. And what does that elaborate title mean? Well, I'm the storyteller. My job, which I'm very privileged to have, is I get to work with nonprofit partners like you, our donors, and community leaders in sharing the great work you're doing in our community and how it's building that community we all want to live in, right? Our hopes, our dreams, our visions, everything, right? And that's done through storytelling. And I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, since March, storytelling has become almost refreshed anew through social media, right? The digital is how you tell your story now. The keyboard, rather than the pen, is mightier than the sword. And all of you as nonprofit partners, right, you're sitting on a treasure trove of stories, from client testimonials to your causes that you're addressing, the evolving needs you're discovering, and all of that hope you're generating, right? Something you may not be thinking about when you're thinking of content to repurpose on social media or your website or your press release is your grant announcements from local foundations. So I'm here to speak on behalf of the foundation to kind of generate those ideas of how can you take that grant you received from the Community Foundation and transform it into really a multi-purpose, multi-platform story. So I've kind of alluded to how we're going to answer this question. So we'll jump to the next slide about some options you have. So as a grantee of the Community Foundation, whether you receive a grant from our community impact, capacity building, or some of our new opportunities, right, you'll receive an email from our community impact team. It has a bunch of links and helpful resources to get you started on this storytelling journey. The first is, as a grantee, we expect a press release. And I'm sure you all are professionals, you've crafted a press release before, but it's essentially a news, kind of bundled news blurb that you send to the media that they either run with to print or they investigate further for a more in-depth story. And on that helpful email, right, we have a press kit on our website that goes through acknowledgement requirements, all the technical language of how do we describe the funding, what is the correct name of the foundation, some social media handles to keep the conversation going. For those who are new with press releases, we also have a template. So it goes through some recommended language and whatnot. And then we also have a second option, which is a story of impact. And you may be asking yourself, well, what is a story of impact, right? Isn't a press release telling my story as well? Well, a story of impact is more in the creative and flexible realm, right? It's more than just the bare bones press release that just says the news. It can encompass multiple forms of content, which we'll dive into in the next slide. Perfect. So all of the things you see on the screen here are stories of impact and more, right? A press release can also serve as a story of impact. A blog post, right? It could be shared from a family that you've served. It could be the staff reflecting on a program, the impact of it, right? It could be a video, right? Either professionally done by a production studio or a news studio, or shot on your iPhone, right? We all are content producers in this digital age, and using the resources you have to tell that story is super important. Testimonials, right? Quotes from the families you serve or staff members. What does it mean to work at your nonprofit organization, and how are you accomplishing your mission? Now, these are a little more rare that I see in the story of impact department, but podcasts and audio recordings. If you have an interview with a local radio station, right, encourage them to send you that audio file, because that can be transformed on your website. It can be shared on your social media, like, hey, check us out on XYZ station. Newsletter blurbs, right? Include your grant funding in your e-newsletter, the donors or other community members. And lastly, articles, right? If Scene Magazine is really interested in your program, make sure you share that with us. Because at the end of the day, the foundation wants to be your storytelling partner. We're not just your philanthropic partner. We want to be that echo chamber for your stories. So when you have all of these ideas, right? Oh, a blog post would be great to share my impact, or a podcast or a newsletter, right? Share those with us. I'll be sharing my contact information in the next slide. But we want to be that sounding board, right? We want to take it in and shoot it back out to the community. So when you send us your stories of impact, whatever they may be, we'll post that on our website. There's a great tab. So our website is cfsarasota.org. There's a great tab under it called Stories in Media. Under that tab, you'll find all of our stories of impact that nonprofits like yourself, and many of you actually on this call, have sent my way. And we organize those stories into 3 categories: community care, which is your base level immediate needs, such as housing, homelessness, hunger, environment, you name it. Empowerment success, which is very education based, right? How can we enrich our lives through tools and resources to realize our potential? And the third, belonging and culture, those higher level needs of arts, culture, capacity, and connection. So on our end, we organize your story into one of those categories, and our website serves as that echo chamber, but we also post on this topic, right, social media. We'll tag you, and the most important thing I want to say is we use your voice, right? We don't fill in your voice. We take exactly what content you produce and we use your voice on that post. Because this is the main point I want to express, is this is your story as your nonprofit, right? We want to use your nonprofit voice as the foundation. We want to create a platform that is equitable to all organizations, no matter what your grant amount is, right? It could be a $150 Kickstarter grant. It could be a $50,000 multi-year grant. We want to hear what you're doing in the community, right? Are you discovering new needs? Are you educating our community on a need? Or just highlighting your organization and mission, right? That platform is there, and we're your partner in that storytelling. And my last point is, your story of impact can be anywhere within your program's lifespan, right? A press release kicks it off, but a video could be done in the middle of the program. A quote could be done in the middle of the program. A blog post can be done as a summary of the program. So a story of impact, you could have multiple stories of impact. You could have one. We encourage, as a grantee, 1 press release and 1 story of impact, but you're more than welcome to take that story and run with it through multiple forms of content. So Dana has shared my contact information on the screen. This is also on our website, cfsarasota.org. So please, fellow storytellers, reach out. I love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, I'm also here to help answer those. And I look forward to hearing your stories and sharing them with our broader community. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Hunter. I wanted to bring up something really quick that he mentioned on this screen. Similarly, so all of these, a video, a blog, a testimonial, a podcast, an article, a newsletter, that's 6 different types of content. All of these can be repurposed on social. The blog post can be a Facebook share. Your video can go up on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. Testimonial, you can turn into a quote that goes on your Instagram account, right? Don't just think that you put your blog up, okay, it's done. No, like you can repurpose these in so many different ways. You can create a video about your blog, right? And you can share that in a different way. So think about one piece of content can be turned into 6 different things potentially. So there's a lot of creativity that can be done in telling the impact of your story. So I love that. I wanted to quickly, before I get to questions, I promised I would show you 2 things. So let's go ahead, and funky things happen when I stop my screen share, but we're gonna give it a go again. Okay, so 2 things I'm gonna show you is the Facebook registration page. So, all right, thumbs up, you can see my screen? Great. So this is what I was talking about with the 3 things you need to complete an application to receive donations on Facebook. So these are all nonprofits that I've worked with that I still have admin access to. So I want to show you an example of one that is done. So they have complete with their community standards review in their donations account. But Dress for Success Worldwide West has not. So if you go to, again, this URL, facebook.com/donate/sign up, you need to make sure that these are all filled out so that your logo comes up and that people are able to fundraise on your behalf and create individual Facebook fundraisers. I cannot preach this enough. It is a game changer to be able to have Facebook fundraisers activated for people to donate for you. I'm talking about potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars missed out if this is not completed. So that was the first thing I wanted to share with you. Secondly, we talked about tagging. So for instance, I just popped up my personal Facebook page, and if I go to great session today with, and I do my @community foundation of Sarasota. So then I can go down and I will click, and now I know that they're tagged, right? But what's different is if I was to copy and paste this message for Instagram, that is not the tag for the Community Foundation of Sarasota County on Instagram. It would not tag them properly. So that's one example of doing it in the comments. And you can also tag for Instagram in the actual image. So I just wanted to showcase an example of both of those things. Other than that, I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to pull up the screen again, but does anybody have any questions? We went through a lot today. And while I'm bringing this back up, actually it's the question slide, so I don't know if it's necessarily relevant. Next week, 201 is all about live streaming. It's all about how to create an engaging live stream event. So I'm going to break down step by step tools to use, platforms to use, suggestions, a full demo of, I produced Take Stock in Children's event early this year and the Sarasota Chamber of Commerce Small Business Awards, and I'm producing their annual meeting coming up and a couple of other virtual events. So we'll dive through literally the platform and tool that I use to produce those. Talk about run of show, talk about how to create an interactive program, how to work with digital sponsorships. So that's 201. And then lesson 301 in 2 weeks is going to be all about creating an ad. If you have never done, if you're intimidated by what it's like to put together a Facebook ad, there is going to be no deck for that. I'm literally diving into Facebook with you, and we're doing an ad together. So it's going to be, you're going to have your screen open, I'm going to have my screen open. Come with the idea of saying, have some budget in mind. It can be $20, and you're going to literally put together an ad with me. So come with content, your copy, and a small budget, or whatever you want, and we're going to run through an ad together, and it's going to be really interactive. So that's lesson 301. So with that, this was kind of a overview of a lot of the main tools of social media. There is so much to cover, and it changes all the time, but I hope this was beneficial for even with social. If you change one thing about what you're doing, it can make a really big difference. So with that, we have about 8 minutes left, and I wanted to open it up for questions. If you have a question, just unmute yourself and go ahead and come on the screen. Anybody have something they want to personally discuss? This is your time.
A question from Allison.
Hi. First of all, Dana, thank you so much. I've been on a lot of social media webinars and calls, and this was one of the most informational specifically for nonprofits. So huge thank you. I work for an adaptive tennis and fitness program for individuals with Down syndrome, and we have locations nationwide, but I'm actually also a native of Sarasota, and we have one, of course, in Sarasota. And my question is really, in the peer-to-peer space, we're seeing a lot of like high school, younger, we have a big volunteer base with, we call them buddies. They're like high school, college age. And that age doesn't really change. That'll typically be our buddies are volunteers. Now we're trying to do more peer-to-peer, and a lot of them love the Instagram story bingo boards. And I was wondering if you had any insights as to fundraising on Instagram, even though it's really meant for, you know, the visual aspects. I don't know if you have any insights into that new world, but.
Yeah, honestly, Instagram, I haven't seen a ton of success. They do have the donations like sticker that you can put on stories, right? And they do allow you to now, if you go live, you can add like the donation widget when you're live on Instagram Live. But again, I don't think people have recognized, they haven't caught on as much as Facebook is used for and known for donations. So I would use Instagram as more of the awareness play and use that link in bio to drive them to somewhere that they're used to donating. I think it would be interesting though with a younger demographic to test it out. In the donation sticker, using the link, because you can track it. If you create the link to be a bit.ly, you can track how many clicks you have on it. And then utilizing the Instagram Live technology with the donation ask. That would be my best way. The most success I've currently seen is with Facebook fundraisers. Yeah, Instagram's, there was a study done with the WWF, World Wildlife Fund, and they're massive, right? They have millions of followers and they didn't see a strong reaction on Instagram donations yet. So I just think it's people aren't used to like using Instagram for that functionality yet.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll jump in a bit too there. For your link in bio and Instagram, for at least for the foundation, we have so many things, right, we want to talk about. We want people to go to the website. We want people to donate to XYZ campaign. I use Linktree, which is pretty much a software where it's free. It's a link, and then you click on it and there's like 6 buttons. You can have multiple buttons, right? So if you have multiple things going on, you're like, I can't decide which link to share. You can use Linktree as a free software to use, and that's been successful for me. So I can say link in bio, and it is link in bio, but you pick the button you want. So another option.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Will this recording be available on your website?
Yes, we will send this out in an email, I believe, after the fact. Yes.
Okay, great.
Of course.
I do have a question about Facebook. So I've been through the process where I did the application and it says that I'm approved to move forward with fundraising. But I've seen on some Facebook pages for nonprofits, there's a donate button, like where it says like, share, follow, donate at the top, at the top of the Facebook page under the cover page, cover photo. I just cannot figure out how to get this donate button there, and I followed their instructions. I've emailed them for help, but what they're telling me to do and when I follow the directions, like the options aren't there. So I'm assuming maybe it's a setting problem. Do you know anything about this donate button, or do you have any instructions for that? I must be doing something wrong, but I can't figure out what.
Well, sometimes Facebook makes it difficult. Barbara, what's your nonprofit?
It's called the Environmental Conservancy of Northport. Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 steps on the instructions, and I'm like, this can't be rocket science, but I'm not doing this right, obviously.
Let me look it up. Sometimes you're talking about where right under the banner, it'll say learn more, and then you can change the button.
Like I've seen my local Audubon, Venice area Audubon, their page has it in that exact spot. So it's got to be doable.
Let me see. Okay, I found you. Right now you have send message up there.
Yeah.
And you do have create fundraiser, so you definitely are set up.
Right.
When you open up and this might be something, maybe you can ping me offline. When you click on your button to edit it, it just doesn't have the donate as an option.
Right. Correct. It's just not there.
Okay. Yeah. Can you ping me afterwards and we'll go through a little troubleshooting together?
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
You got it. Great question. And I would strongly suggest, if I can do it in my last 2 minutes, does anybody have a quick question? If not, I'm going to ring off one last tip. Okay. So my suggestion, if you have not launched a Facebook fundraiser before, they are amazing at raising funds for very specific things. So for example, and this is kind of what's been working a lot this year, is if you launch a Facebook fundraiser, and actually I'm going to bring up an example. Which one can I show really quickly? I did one. I'm going to see if I can pull up mine really fast. So what I'm trying to explain is you have an image, you have a heading copy, and you have an ask amount, right? So what you want to do in your Facebook fundraiser to exceed your goal and to see success is create a engaging image, right? So it's going to stop someone. And in the copy, a lot of times we say fundraising for, and it's the charity name. That is not exciting. That is not emotional. That's not telling me where the funds go. The one I'm trying to find is I ran a virtual 5K earlier this year and did a Facebook fundraiser on behalf of Dressember. They're an organization in Los Angeles that's trying to end human trafficking. And they had these impact goals on their website where they stated different dollar amounts equal different program things. So specifically, one of theirs was $320 equaled 8 hours of therapy sessions for a survivor. So I put in my header, $320 equals 8 hours, and $320 was my goal, right? So immediately when I went live on Facebook as I was doing my walk to warm up. I explained to my friends and family, this is the organization. This is the amount I'm trying to fundraise for. It was super specific. They can visually understand what 8 hours of therapy is like, right? And I said, I would love if I could get X amount of people to donate $20. And within 5 minutes of that Facebook Live, because I attached it to my fundraiser, which you can do really easily, which is a click of a button, you can explain this to your donors. I exceeded my goal in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, right? And then those, I had, actually, I wonder if, I'm gonna try and pull it up because it's so much better if it's visual. A great example is the one that blew up a couple of years ago. No, that's not it. I may have to send this afterwards to everybody on email because it's so much better if it's visual. And Facebook's making it hard to find my Facebook fundraiser. But essentially those three things, right? You want to make sure that you have a compelling image, your copy resonate, and it's telling a mini story in those character count, and that the goal of what you're asking for is not a nominal $1,000, $5,000. You want to explain exactly what it goes towards. And one other quick example of this, I know we're slightly over time, is last year I ran Movember's, if you're familiar with the Mustache men's health charity, I ran their North America digital campaign. We launched a Facebook fundraiser on Veterans Day, and our specific Facebook fundraiser was around supporting their veterans program. So it talked about the suicide rate and mental health for veteran. That was in our copy. It was a statistic. We had a specific goal for that program. Immediately that day, succeeded that goal, right? So those are tips. If you're struggling, you're like, I'll launch a Facebook fundraiser, but no one's donating to it. Those are 3 ways to make sure that you're exceeding that goal. Okay. Any final comments, quick questions?
Do we have your contact information?
I think it should be through the Zoom, but my email is Dana, D-A-N-A, at positiveequation.com. Or you can find me at just going to my website, which is positiveequation.com. I'll spell that. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This has been great. I hope this has been really beneficial to everyone. I'm really, really, really excited for 201 and 301 in this series. If you have not already registered for those, they are going to be, again, very, very tactical. 201, setting up your virtual event, and then 301, going through Facebook advertising. So if you're interested in those, I think the team, will you guys be sending out emails about those again?
Yeah, we will. And then there also, you can go to our website under the nonprofit section. There's events and nonprofits trainings, workshops and trainings. You can sign up there to register that way.
Cool.